it is one about being very true to yourself. And part of being true to yourself in business is knowing your limitations. So, and just be honest about them. Know what you don't know, know that you don't know it. I think it is a question of really self belief massively. Not delusion, there's a difference, but having that self belief that will carry you very far. Like, I had never any doubt that I could do what I could do, but I wasn't overextending myself ever. If you're a designer, say, or if you make jewelry, or if you're an artist, whatever that craft or skill is, that right? That's the thing that you can do and that you're good at. Understand where it sits. Is there a industry around it? And then what does the industry require in order for you to be successful? Because so many businesses fail, and they fail very early. And a lot of them, I think, if they just educated themselves more about the industry, they wouldn't fail.
Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey, the podcast where we share valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts and be part of this journey. Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation.
Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey, a space for real conversations around creative and entrepreneurial journeys. This podcast dives into the journey of our guests from the beginning to the process used to build and how they have blossomed. I'm your host for this episode, Angela Sendenis. Every business starts with a moment, an idea, perhaps a frustration, or a vision for something better. On this episode of Begin, Build, Blossom, we're joined by a woman who has shaped the landscape of British publishing and expanded the possibilities of who gets to be seen, heard, and celebrated in literature. Our guest is Valarie Brandes, CEO and founder of the award-winning inclusive independent publishing house, Jacaranda Books. Jacaranda publishes a wide range of fiction and nonfiction from authors all over the world, including the first of its kind nonfiction series, A Quick Thing, which documents and celebrates contemporary Black British culture. Under her trailblazing leadership, Jacaranda Books set themselves apart by championing an industry leading 20 in 2020 publishing campaign, which, for the first time ever in the UK, committed to publishing 20 Black British writers in 1 year. This program produced multiple award winning novels, including Lot by Shola von Reinhold and Bad Love by Mame Blue. Also in 2020, Jacaranda Books was named Small Press of the Year at the British Book Awards. In 2025, Jacaranda was on honoree for Powerless BP Business of the Year. Alongside her publishing company, Valarie also sits on the board of the University of Exeter's Publishing Studies course. In March 2022, Valarie was selected for Emma Watson and Renee Eddowes Lodge's City of Women map for Angel Station. And in 2023, she was featured in A Colorful View from the Top, 21 Extraordinary Stories of Leaders of Color Achieving Excellence in Business by Jonathan Mildenhall. In 2025, Valerie was named among Publishers Association's People in Publishing. Valerie, welcome to Begin Build Blossom.
Oh, what a lovely introduction, Angela. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. I feel like we don't have to do the interview. We could just crop this around and then we're
There you
ready to
go.
go.
We're done.
But it's really lovely to have you on the podcast. And I'm looking forward to us delving into publishing. I'm a reader myself. I mean, granted, I do have several books that I have read, and I also have several books that have been read. But that's the story of a
That's it.
reader. There are always books being read.
Always.
So I'm looking forward to speaking to someone who gets those books published so we can all enjoy it. So to get things started, we'll go through a little section called rapid fire. I will ask you a question. You can provide me with one word or a couple of, or you could respond with a statement. So the first one would be, if you had to use a word to describe you as a child and as an adult, what would that word be? Would it be the same or would it be different?
That's just a very unique question. I haven't had that one before. As a child, I was described as two things. One being very stubborn, and the other one was being very argumentative. My mum would say, "You see, you once you haul a pint," and I definitely am not those things anymore. I think as I've gotten older, and especially in relation to Jacaranda, I think that I've become quite ambitious for the business. So I would describe myself as quite an ambitious person. I have a lot of kind of plans and dreams and aspirations for where I want the business to go and grow. So yeah, I think my ambition, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So you saw a genesis kind of
I hope
growing.
so. That's what we can only hope for, right? Some
That's
sort of
right.
growth.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so our next question is, if there was one place in the world that you could visit today, just perhaps get away somewhere to relax or somewhere you'd like to explore, where would that be?
I mean, right at this moment, it would have to be Dominica. So my mum was born in Portsmouth in Dominica, and she passed away last year, 3 months shy of her 100th birthday. And yeah, I would right now. I'd be more than happy to just be sitting in Portsmouth with my family and just reminiscing about her and seeing where she grew up, and that will happen. I will definitely do that. But if you were talking about this very moment, yeah, yeah,
That would be a place to be. So that's
definitely,
really good because it helps you to live with her memories,
absolutely.
just to see how things have grown from that time as well. So may her soul continue to rest in perfect
Thank you
peace,
so much.
and
Thank
you
you.
you keep those wonderful memories with you.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that insight to your life. Next question. Something that you'd like to share that people generally don't know about you.
Oh, good Lord, Andrew, there's so much. I'm quite, I'm quite a quiet person, and I definitely keep a small circle, which I tend to keep to myself. So I think there's quite a lot of things that people don't know about me, but sort of on a very kind of, I guess, more superficial level. I can juggle,
Okay,
which
that's a
I
good
think,
one.
yeah, I don't think I can do three balls at the moment. And I know that especially in this current world, and even like growing up, my mom would get coffee brought from Dominica for us and would make it in the cafetiere. But I am an instant coffee drinker, which is says everything about my poor palate, I'm sure, and my lack of taste. But I do just like a cup of good instant coffee. At the moment, I love this company called Presto. Their instant coffee, I love.
It's
Yeah,
really nice. Oh,
it's
I
really
should try
good.
that.
Yeah,
I do drink coffee, but not a huge fan, but I'll definitely try out Presto's
yeah.
since it tastes good. Yeah. Okay, good. Thanks for sharing that. Now, as a publisher, we talk about books. Is there one book that has left a lasting impact with you that you would recommend to audience? Because you have a different view of books now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always just loved books. I've always loved reading. That was something that sort of really defined who I was as a young person, even. And I was at a very young age reading authors like James Baldwin and, all the big classics. The book that I will read and reread and will buy whenever a new edition comes out and will give to people is Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. I think that is just like a perfect book. I always say there is not a spare word in that book. And I think that the way that Toni Morrison is able to just create this world and describe people's lives, not in just simple kind of descriptive language, but within the environment of how they live. And you get to see the inner world of the people by the fact that they have a broken down couch and nobody knows how to return it, or even that they can. So that way she describes their sort of kind of disconnection from the world around them. And it's a very heart-wrenching and heartbreaking book. The idea that this young dark-skinned black girl is growing up and all she wants is blue eyes. And towards the end of the book, there's this sort of incendiary moment. I don't want to give it away for your listeners, but especially today with all the stuff that's going on with assaults on women and children and all of these kind of conversations, it's a difficult part of the book to read and come to. And I think one of the things that makes it that way is in the moment there's an act that occurs, the father on the daughter, but in the moment you actually aren't clear who you feel more sorry for, because Toni Morrison has created such an incredible kind of journey of these characters, and you kind of really are so absorbed within them. And it's a very short book. I think it's less than 200 pages, but it's by far my favorite book. And yeah, the book that I give to everyone, honestly. And I will always buy it. Yeah.
Based on what you've said, it's sort of allowing people to see where they can be and not accepting yourself, because this young lady seemed to want to have been something else. And if she just accepted herself, potentially, it could go in a different direction.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of a little bit difficult to get a very optimistic take from the book, because it's talking about political issues, class structure, racism, all set in, the sort of American South. It can be a bit unrelenting as well, but it's just the way that it was written, the words, the way she strings her words together, the way she conveys her thoughts through words, the world building. There's a scene where the mother, Pecola, I think that's her name. Been a long time since I've read it, but she, in order to escape her life, she goes to the movies. And I also love the old black and white movies. I love them as well. And she's in there, and sort of the juxtaposition of this lady who has nothing, and she's watching this very sort of glamorous, movie with these women, white women in their silk robes, and the way she describes that, it's just brilliant.
You can imagine yourself.
Well, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for providing us with that detailed background. So I hope that our listeners are encouraged to read this author, and perhaps she has other writings
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
she does. So Toni Morrison is the Nobel laureate for fiction. She's has a huge body of work, and she was
So there's something for everyone.
yes, definitely, definitely.
Okay, fantastic. So one last question before we exit the rapid fire. Has there ever been a book that you thought, I should have published this one? Have you ever had that experience?
Again, it's a great question. I'm gonna say no.
Okay, good.
and and the main reason for that is that obviously if you look at the list, I've published some amazing books and some amazing authors, and I've published what I could publish. So if there was a book out there that I didn't get to publish, it wasn't because I wanted it. There's lots of books that I love and that I haven't published that I think, oh, that's a great book, yeah. But I don't think I necessarily need to feel like I've got a hand in it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, well, thank you for providing us with that bit of background. We had a little bit about the publishing house, and it also gives us a little bit of insight into how you select the books that you publish as well. So, now getting deeper into your story, tell us a little bit about you before you got to Jacaranda Books. What did you do? What did you study?
So I studied in the late 80s, early 90s at the University of Exeter. And I enrolled on a course, it was called American and Commonwealth Arts. And I was interested in the Commonwealth side. I was hoping that I could get to study at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, yeah. So, but at the time they said they didn't have any links with the University of the West Indies, and so the where they had the links were on the American side of it. So I got sent to the University of California at Santa Cruz. and I did my third year there, my junior year there, and it was an amazing year for me in terms of being able to be exposed to just amazing lecturers and critical thought, and there was a lot happening in the world. I remember going to see, I don't know if your readers will know, a photographer called Robert Mapplethorpe, but he was at the time a very controversial white gay photographer who was taking these pictures of flowers but making them look very sort of homoerotic. And there was a big sort of like, controversy around it. And I went to see that exhibition in San Francisco. So I was having just this amazing year away from London. And I also met my husband there the first day of school. I met him. So yeah, I studied it at Santa Cruz, came back to the UK, finished my degree. And then I actually went back to America and became a mom. Um, so yeah, we got married and we started to have children. When I had my daughter, then I became a bookseller at Barnes and Noble. So I used to sell books in I was in the children's section, which meant
Oh, how
at one point,
suitable, yeah.
yeah, at one point I was paying them for the privilege of working for them because I was just
Yeah,
buying all of the books,
all the books, yeah.
Yeah, and then once my children had reached sort of preteen, I wanted to come back to the UK, but I'd been gone for over a decade at that point, and I didn't really have any connections in the UK. And I didn't, time goes on.
Even with family and
Yeah,
friends.
no,
Okay.
because my children were born in California, and so
Okay, I
yeah,
see what you mean.
so my family was here. So I came back and I took a master's in publishing studies at St George's City University in London, and from there got hired into what my dream publishing house essentially, but as the office manager. So definitely not my dream job, but and I was able to stay there for 1 year. That was Profile Books in London, founded by an amazing man, Andrew Franklin, who is a friend today. And but I knew I wanted to do something more, and also I was already in my late 40s, so I was struggling to even get like internships, honestly. But I also knew that I kind of knew I could do the business side of things. My husband's a musician and we have rehearsal rooms in California. So I knew that we had not how to start a business, but I'd done one, I'd had experience of seeing a business started up. So all of those things combined, my age and, the fact that I wasn't really getting anywhere, but also that I had been exposed somewhat to somebody else starting a business, that all of these things kind of propelled me to think about doing. And also just my love of books and literature, and realizing as well that there wasn't a lot of really good African diasporic writing. There's a lot of classics, but contemporary writing at that time being published in the UK. This is around 2009, 2010. So I stayed at Profile for 1 year as the office manager, and then I left. And in 2012, they opened up my computer in the morning of 2012.
Uh-huh.
No emails. I had no
Ah,
websites. All I had
nothing.
was my logo that the art director from Profile had done for me, and which I still have today.
Okay.
But I didn't have anything else, and I just thought, well, I know I love a good book. I think I have some acumen when it comes to picking books and reading well, and so I thought, well, I have no choice, really. I
But
mean,
to do it.
yeah, I have to do it. So
So, two questions. One, why not write? You notice there's that shortcoming, for want of a better word, in the books that are available. Why not be a writer instead?
yeah, well, I've always wanted to, like, I mean, and that was the thing that actually, from a very young age, had distinguished me was my ability to sort of write. And actually, whilst my children were small, I did kind of dabble in San Diego. So the very first short story I wrote won the first prize in my college competition. And then I wrote a non-fiction piece called Sea Changes about my mom and myself and how our lives were parallel, even though we were so separated by generations. And it got published in a magazine called Ziziba, which is a California literary magazine. So I sort of early on could see a path. But by the time I had the children, when I was back in the UK, I had to be very pragmatic about this, you know. So
Yes, yes. Priorities change,
that's right.
agendas for the day change, and so on.
Exactly. And so I noticed that City University, I actually looked at City first for their MFA program because they have an excellent MFA program. But then I noticed they also had this Masters in Publishing Studies. I didn't really know what that was. It's kind of like a soft publishing MBA kind of thing because they had a little bit about the business of publishing as well. So I applied for that instead. You know, I just thought, well, I've got to find a way to make an income, and my writing may not take off.
Instead, something else will,
Yeah,
you
who
know?
knew? Who
Well,
knew?
something else did,
Something
in
else
other words.
did, yeah.
So, coming back to the story of Jacaranda, you had your logo, you had your computer, no emails or anything set up. How did you determine what the name would be?
Hmm.
And what's the backstory of that? And tell us your next steps after opening the computer.
So because I had been living in California prior to that, and there's one part of we lived in San Diego. We still kind of do, but there was these purple flowering trees. I would see them everywhere, and they're just beautiful. And I remember one day just looking down this road and just seeing two rows of these gorgeous trees just going as far down in the distance as I could see. And I asked, "What are they?" And I was told they are jacaranda trees. And I thought, yeah, what a beautiful name and what a gorgeous tree. And I just thought it was just like a fleeting moment because at that time I had no inclination whatsoever to become a publisher or to have my own business. But I just thought, oh gosh, if I ever start a business, I'll call it Jacaranda. It was literally like that, in and out, like just. And then years later, as I started to do a bit more research into the tree, which is a very special tree, one of the things I found out was that it's actually a tree that's found in sort of temperate zones all over the globe.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the Caribbean. It's not so much we do have jacarandas in the UK, but it's not so. I don't think it's as intentional, if that makes sense, as in California or in India, South Africa, South America. So I thought actually the outlook for my business is very reflective of that. I wanted to look at the diaspora, the African diaspora, and think about publishing globally and just what it means to publish Black and how that's such an expansion of ideas. And so it felt like a very appropriate name for the company, one that I loved. I love the color. And then just when you start to break it down, when you start to break down the meaning of the name of the tree itself, then it was a perfect fit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive that
Hmm.
you had that thought,
Yeah.
notice this tree, and then just determine you spoke it into existence.
I feel like that. That's such a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yes, you spoke it into existence because there's time that passed, but this was built into your subconscious. So when that opportunity presented itself, we have Jacaranda Books.
And it really was like that. Like it wasn't like let me find something that will fit thing. It wasn't that at all. It was just, oh yes, and then oh yes, yes, it's definitely.
Okay, wonderful. So we heard the backstory. It's really brilliant to hear that kind of detail. So now we have the business, we have the name. Did you have to go through any kind of registration process?
Yeah. So we've to register the business at Company's House, and then there are a number. So it's an interesting thing. Okay, so Angela, I knew books. I love to read, and I can pick a
And-
good book, but I did not know like business. So I was really learning as I went along. I was learning business and the publishing business. So I knew the books, and then I was learning the publishing business, and then I had to learn business. And I think I'm learning the business side of things today. So one of the things was trying to get distribution. So you sort of register at Company's House, you get your logo registered, and then what's happening was there were a few events around the city that I would go to, and then I would speak to people and say, I've just started a publishing company. I'm looking to develop the list. Would you be interested in submitting to me? So submitting your work. And the very first book I published was literally like that. We went to an event called Black Book Swap, which was organised by a woman called Trish Worrell, and I met Jacqueline Shaw, who's now Jacqueline Brown, and she had published her dissertation, which was Fashion Africa, and her dissertation looked at the manufacturing, production, and sourcing of fashion from the continent. There were 40 designers in there that she'd gathered together, but it was really looking at the procedures and sort of the social science of it, really. But what I moved it towards was more kind of like a coffee table version of that social science. But that was the very first book I published, and made all the mistakes on it. It was a big four-color illustrated book. Like, I've never done another
You
one
went all
since.
out.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that was the first one, and then having to get the next thing you need is obviously distribution, and sales and distribution. So I went to the London Book Fair with my iPad with a little, what they call a blad back then, but like a little brochure that kind of took pages out of the book, and so I could talk to distributors about, this is the book that I have. And there was one in particular that I was trying to get a meeting with, and when I went to her and I met with her, so I was publishing Jacqueline Shaw's book, and I was also publishing Glass by Patrick Walsh, which was a novel set in Jamaica. And she's like, "This is great. I love this book. I feel like we could sell this hand over fist. It's a great book, but we only really, you have to have at least 10 titles before we will consider taking you on." And I just looked at her like, I don't have 10 titles.
Texas.
But I think that the book looked amazing. Like, I had worked with a book designer who I still work with to this day. His name is Rod Dive. He lives in Bath in the UK, and he had created such a beautiful brochure for the book that I think she was like taking it apart. Like, okay, so production values are there, and the book is really constructed.
Trying to look at all the justifiable points.
Exactly. So she said to me, "Okay, what I need from you is a term sheet, essentially. What they not so much, but you sell what they use to sell the books. So they call them AIs or TIs, and I need one by the end of day today. And if you can get me that by the end of the day, then we'll take you on." And so I was just like, thank God for technology, even back then, because I had my cell phone. I could
Uh-huh.
call. So at that time, also, Jasmine Breary had joined with me. She had been an intern at Profile, and she came on board to like just work, sort of do the office and admin stuff. She was in the office, and then publicity as well for the business. And I said, Jasmine, we need. There's so many things, but just the week before that, I had ordered some ISBNs, and because I figured out, I understood, that each book needs
Oh, what are ISBN?
a long number identifying the book, that all
Oh,
of the,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
so
I
you'll
see.
see the ISBN when you look on Amazon, and that's what the booksellers use and book buyers use. So I had actually ordered some ISBNs. Each book has a unique ISBN, but it was supposed to be coming in the mail, and I needed them that day. So I called up the agency that sells, the ISBNs, Nielsen, and she said, "Oh, that's good. We haven't sent them out yet. I can just send them to you as an attachment." See
Oh,
the
wow.
file. And so
Yes.
she sent them, and then that's how we got and I had the template for the AI, and just put the plugged in the ISBN, and then she sent it to me via an email attachment, and I was able to show them the TI and then send it to them. And that's how we got our first distribution deal.
Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation.
That's very innovative. And I mean, you also had to think on the spot.
Very much so. And I think that was also a function of my sort of like lack of knowledge, honestly. I'd be real honest with you. I knew that I liked books and I knew that I wanted to be a publisher, but I really did not know what I was getting myself into. I really didn't. So I think that as much we had a great time in those early years, just kind of wild. It was the Wild West for us, just running here,
Just doing
running
things.
there, just
Yes.
doing things.
Yes. Yes. I could imagine.
But then in that time, a lot of mistakes were made, and I don't regret any of it, but I do wish I was able to kind of get that business head together a lot earlier than I did. But I think also I kind of know my own sort of limitations as well. So I think that I was trying to work through my limitations at that time. So it was a little bit protective too, in a weird way.
Okay, okay. Yes, and that it's so true that when you mention about having that business acumen,
Yeah.
so many times you can have all the other creative elements, but you need the business to be the best version of yourself.
Think a lot of independent publishers, we sort of struggle with that because we know we love books, we love reading, we want to publish people, but you tend to not think about the next step. So you get some amazing small presses in this country, very, very small presses that will have one or two incredible books, but actually how to build that into a proper going concern. There's a little bit of a transition that we're not always making. I think for me, the successes came in other ways, and that's what kept me going. I think had I not built the kind of list that I built, I would have given up a long time ago. And there were definitely times when I had enough. I just don't want to do this anymore. But yeah, I think that it was just a question of just keeping one foot in front of the other, and also most importantly, I think know your limitations. Like, you don't know what you don't know. At least know that. You know that you don't
Yes,
know that you
yes,
don't know.
and admit it.
And admit
And
it, yeah.
yes. So having admitted, the limitations in terms of the business skills and you're growing on one side, there are opportunities that are presenting themselves. There's some level of success, but you need that foundation. How did you address that, for want of a better word, that limitation of business knowledge of those things that you needed to keep your business together?
I mean, it's really interesting because that sort of know what you don't know. I didn't realize, like, I didn't know that was what the problem was for a long time, because I was being really successful at getting amazing authors and amazing books, and then our books were getting longlisted and shortlisted on very important prizes. So you had that almost like peer review, if you like, of the industry is looking at what we're doing and saying it's great. So I was able to sort of exist on that kind of currency, if you like, and then
Okay, because things are happening,
things are
there's growth,
happening.
there's success, there's
Yeah,
recognition. But then those pillars that you needed, they're wobbling for want of a better
income,
word.
revenue, the
Managing the
fundamentals.
two.
Yeah, and I did have some moments of crisis when I thought I just can't do this anymore. I can't financially, personally give any more to this business. But also, I knew that I just knew that I didn't know, and I couldn't rely on just what I didn't know. So eventually, well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many ways to look at this, but I think so. In one of the things that really made a difference for me was 2017. I acquired two books. I acquired the Book of Harlan by Bernice L. McFadden. She's an African American author. She's the most prolific writer we have today by far, and I think this is one of her best novels. And I was very excited to have acquired that. And then I also was able to acquire the Trayvon Martin story, but the book was written by his parents, Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin. And I brought those two books to the UK. And on the week that we published the Trayvon Martin story, I think we sold one copy. And I just was devastated. And I thought, that's when I was like, I can't do this because I can't keep going out there and acquiring these amazing books and then not, bring them to this country and they just sort of sink without a trace. And so I was ready to give up. I really was. But then I thought, okay, you know what? I will try one last big move. And I don't ask me where the thought came from, but it's just you're sort of sitting in this space. And there is a part of me, for all of the sort of terrors and all of the frustrations, that is enjoying it. Like I'm enjoying being there.
Because you're doing something that you're passionate about.
Exactly,
So it's
that
not like
passion.
working, it's just
Exactly, the passion, and it's really that because I was still operating out of my home office, so I had a small team. There was about four of us at the time, and they would come to my home, and we'd work from the home office. So that kind of helped as well in a weird way. But I was just thinking, so 2018 now, and 2020 was coming up. I've always had corrected vision from when I was a child. And so I thought, well, what can we do? We've got to do something big, something bold. It's like go big or go home, right? So that's when I said to the girls, like, we're going to publish 20 Black British writers in 2020. And that was a function of us having published globally prior to that. So we're sort of bringing it home. And also just to kind of do something that was just going to really take on the industry and really try and shake up a little bit.
yes.
And
So you can imprint
and
yourself.
yeah, and
Something unique.
you're not going to forget us after this, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So we put out a call for manuscripts, and they came in. And by the end of the year, we closed the submissions, and by the beginning of 2019, we had all of our 20 writers, 10 fiction, 5 non-fiction, 5 poets. And then that whole year, we know a new staff member came on board from mainstream publishing, and she was just brilliant. Her name's Magdalene Abraha, and she came up with this idea for the Equipping On series that we do, the short non-fiction books.
Yes, yes.
That was Mags.
Yes, you have one on planting.
Yes,
So I
yeah.
know somebody who likes planting. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. You're
Uh,
gonna love it. It's such a good book. And so that was her sort of DNA of like, she's very much a nonfiction editor and acquirer. So she understands how to make nonfiction titles work. But anyway, so she came on board and she brought her contacts, and beginning of the year we just started we put out the story. Jacaranda is publishing these 20 authors next year in 2020, and it just blew up. Just took everybody wanted to partner with us. Wow, wow, wow. We had everybody, Book Foils Bookshop, London Library, all of these different brands everybody just wanted to be a part of it, because I think at that time there was still this sort of consternation around, are we doing enough? Is there enough diversity from the big houses and the more mainstream houses? And then we suddenly were doing it. They all wanted to have a part of that, which was
you were
very,
telling our own story, essentially.
absolutely,
Doing it for
we're
ourselves.
absolutely doing it for ourselves, like, and that's sort of the DNA of Jacaranda. It is all about, like, you need a seat at the table. Well, what we did was we built our own table and we seat ourselves around it and people that look like us. Yeah,
That
absolutely.
that is so right. And just to add to that, we did a mid series review. And one of the things I said in that interview is we're making, I mean, there may not be space at the table, so we're making our own table to tell
Absolutely.
our story. So that resonates with me when you
Absolutely.
said that.
Yeah, and it's a great space to be in because you get to decide everything. What the table looks
Yes,
like, how many,
yes,
I
how
mean,
colorful it'll be.
literally, how many chairs do we want around this table? So yeah, that's been the fun part and continues to be till this day. So yeah, we published all of those books. It all went amazingly well. And then we were approached by one of the big five, Hachette UK. We ended up making a sales and distribution deal with Hachette UK, which we've been in ever since. And that just meant that our books were brought into a bigger marketplace. Okay, but then guess what came to bite me in the behind? This business part of things, right? That business part,
Yes,
because
managing the contracts, the finances, the inflow,
yeah,
the
and
outflow.
this big machine of Hachette, they don't care. Like they just want,
No, yes.
they want the book, they want to move on. So I can't remember how I met Dr. Carlton Brown, but he came on board as a business consultant. So he came on board as, and that was me sort of saying, I'm with this big company and I'm out of my depth in the on the business side. So I cannot meet the moment. I can continue acquiring these books, but it's not going to help.
Yes. You go out of your depth,
Yeah,
sort of.
completely. And so I needed somebody in there that understood business and understood how it works, and that was Dr. Carlton Brown. So he came on initially as a consultant, and then I was just like, well, if you would like, I would love for you to consider a role as commercial director at Jacaranda and just undertaking all of the aspects of the commercial side of the business. And so that's what made the massive change in everything that we do. He had the understanding of the commercial aspects. I have the understanding of the publishing side, as does Magdalene, who is on our leadership team. And so together we're able to bring the business side to the business. So he's been amazing, getting our books into Tesco's, creating partnerships, putting really the books are out there in a way that they've never been before. And that's really down to him. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, the fact that you were able to identify someone that you've entered into this partnership that's adding value, and you
absolutely.
didn't have to go through that process of a trial and error with them
Not
because
with
you were
him.
already on a trial and error situation.
I think we got really lucky with each other because we're not the same person. We're very close in age, but we're like brother and sister, like a very like contentious sometimes, but very supportive brother and sister who he Carlton sees the vision completely, and I have total trust and faith in him. And so it's been brilliant, actually. It's really, really great. And from there, able to expand the business. I was able to get a bit more funding from the States where I went and spoke to people that I knew, so it was a relationship there and was able to actually create a vision for them based upon the fact that I now had this commercial director that they could believe in. Yeah. And so from there, I always joke about it that, people say black people don't read, black women don't run, and black businesses don't get funding. Well, clearly we have a massive readership. I am a runner and now we have some money. So, we sort of to flip that on the head a little bit. And so since then, we've been able to hire more staff and really think about what kind of books we want to publish and what sort of story we want to tell going forward. I think for us, Max, I believe, or some of the team came up with the idea that publishing, what we do is bigger than books. So we are in this sort of space now where we're sort of thinking about expanding our IP into other areas as well, which is very, very exciting.
Congratulations on that, because then you can create a legacy and sustainability for the book business and for other things that could be connected. They're all the creative avenues that can come along with that.
And I think that's another really important aspect of what we've been trying. I've always been very, as a second youngest of 11 children, I felt like I didn't, growing up, there were no avenues for anything for me. I think for my elder siblings, because the racism was really entrenched for them. So they were able to kind of like cut the cloth accordingly in a way. But for my generation, by the time we came along, where, that now we're sort of second generation in the UK, there was an expectation that there would be more opportunity, and there just wasn't. There really wasn't. So you grow up not knowing what you can accomplish. You're not knowing how far you can stretch your abilities or really your interests even.
Yeah, if you can go through that ceiling that is supposed to be made for
Exactly.
you.
So I with Jacaranda as well as publishing through the expansion of creativity. One of the things I really wanted to do was be able to provide that kind of publishing path for people, young black publishing professionals, to be able to get their first job in publishing and to be able to help grow Jacaranda for the future. So it's sort of future proofing the business. And so our team meetings now are sort of spectacular, global table, people from the Caribbean, from Africa, from the Middle East, from India. It's like a beautiful diasporic table of young people that want to learn to have a career in publishing. And so I'm really excited about that and that they can hopefully take Jacaranda into the next stage, because you know what it's like in the UK. So many of the business, and even globally as well, they've started 100 years ago, 200 years ago. That's what I want for Jacaranda, sort of a very long-term vision of us still being a black-owned entity well into the future.
Yeah. And I mean, listening to you share that story, I feel in some ways goosebumps. You say 100 years and building that legacy.
Yes,
And so you're showing that opportunity to, you have to start now in including everyone. And a lot of businesses that fail, it's because they didn't see the need. They held on to it tightly. This is my baby. So I will not bring someone in. I had a boss a very long time ago who said you have to trust someone in the final analysis because you can't do it alone. You need somebody there who will help you along. So it's good that you have seen that and have been able to bring a team together who have similar interests, and they also have to see the
they
vision
see it. Yeah.
because they could just come to earn an income and then in a few months or a couple of years they're gone, but once they can see the vision of where you're heading to and then help to keep it all alive.
And you never know, like some over the years, we've had those people that want to dip in and dip
Yeah,
out.
you'll always have those. Yeah.
We've got the core people that they see the vision, they're excited about it. They're young, they're all in their 20s and 30s, and they see in the possibilities down the road. And we also offer an internship and work experience. So even younger people, who that's really the audience that is getting left behind massively, especially when it comes to reading. So we want to make sure that we are a conduit for that kind of exposure to books and literature and writing. And it's open to anyone, So we've had lots of young people from the local schools that come in, all across the black, white, brown, you name it. They come through, but they get to see a publishing house working and they get to understand the early stages of the business, and they write the loveliest letters. Oh, can we come back
Uh-huh.
next year? So
Yes, yes. So it does two things. It exposes them to what the reality is. If this really is their passion, then they know, okay, this is what I need to do. And if it's not, then they can find another path. So it's brilliant. I believe it's a fantastic thing to share your journey with that generation because they continue to build on whatever it is that we're doing.
that's
So
right.
excellent
Yeah, that's right.
work to you. I There are a couple of other things that I wanted to capture in our interview, and you mentioned it a bit when you spoke about having so many siblings and them possibly, your generation would have more opportunities, and that didn't happen.
Mm,
In starting this publishing house that challenges mainstream, you're a black woman, you're a woman of to possibly doing things that people assume you shouldn't be able to do. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome that, facing those barriers, which I'm sure came up?
it's such a great question and sort of a little bit bittersweet for me because I did carry my mom with me everywhere. Like my mom, as the woman that had these 11 children, was an absolute warrior. She really was. And so whenever I would go into these environments whereby, you're the only, we've all been there. Or as you said, in an industry such as publishing, which is very sort of traditional and very much the gentleman's, industry, you're walking in there very much not what they expect. But she would always walk in with me, just be like, it's not even, there's no question of whether you should be in the room or not. You're doing it. So go there, do what you need to do. And the other thing is, as we well know, oftentimes what happens is you go into these environments and then the mystique is shattered because where they're sort of portraying themselves as so much more superior and so much more,
Oh,
you just
yes.
immediately know, no,
I've
yeah,
discovered that.
yeah. I,
Yes.
I literally countless times I'm like, I'm the smartest person at this table. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's right.
And also, I'm the only one who owns my own business. So,
Yes, yes. Yes, and you speak with confidence. And as you said that about taking your mom with you, it brought back to me something Maya Angelou said. I believe it's in one of her poems. We're taking all of our ancestors with us when
yes,
you go into that room.
yes.
And for me, that's how I enter a room. At the moment, I perform above my title. And for some time, I kind of shrunk what I could do and my ability. And in a sense, I was restricted. But once I had the opportunity, I went with it. And I've been fortunate to have a mother who always said, you can do anything. She never told me you have to do X or you have to do Y. She just always said, whatever you want to do. I recall struggling to figure out a career. My mother said, whatever you want to do, Angela. I'm not going to tell you what you know. And she's just always been supportive of whatever it is. And it's the same thing I bring to my child as well. So it's glad to see that you still carry that from your mom, and your mom is from Dominica. So
Yeah, yeah.
hail to all
Come
our Caribbean
on.
mothers.
And
Yeah, and Dominica is St. Lucia's
there
sister
you go,
country. So
exactly. And I think it is such a solid ground to walk on. Like when
it's true, very true.
see what our parents had to go through in this country, and they're telling you you can do this. Yeah, you can. It doesn't matter. Don't let any barriers step in your way. My mum always used to say, every disappointment is God's blessing."
It's a
You know
yes,
that
it's a
one.
blessing in
There you
disguise.
go.
Yes,
And so
yes.
you just move in that way. And it's such a gift. They give you such a gift because, and also just I think who we are in many ways. You hear that people say that in any iteration of any way that I come back to this planet, I want to come back as a black woman, and it's like you get that
And
feeling.
as a West
And
Indian,
as a
yeah.
West Indian, as a Caribbean black woman,
That's
you
right.
really
Yes.
feel it, because
Yeah, yes.
you realize the gifts that you're operating in all of the time. It frees you.
And we've always been empowered. We've never been
Yes.
restricted
Yeah.
from doing what it is that we should do as women.
Exactly.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
What I want to do to bring the conversation to a close for this particular episode is for you to share possibly three pieces of advice with persons who are interested in getting into business, things they could consider. And then as well, you can share how persons can connect with Jacaranda Books to find out more.
So the advice, there's so many, and also it's quite difficult because everyone's journey is so different. I think that it is one about being very true to yourself. And part of being true to yourself in business is knowing your limitations. So and just be honest about them. Know what you don't know. Know that you don't know it. I think it is a question of really self belief massively. Not delusion, there's a difference, but having that self belief that will carry you very far. Like I had never any doubt that I could do what I could do, but I wasn't overextending myself ever. I wasn't trying to climb a mountain. I was just trying to get to the road leading up to the mountain. And then when I got there, then, oh, okay,
But I could go
I can
further.
go a little bit further. Just trusting myself in that way. And I think just really make sure that you educate yourself on all aspects of what this world that you're entering is into. So if you're a designer, say, or if you make jewelry, or if you're an artist, whatever that craft or skill is that right? That's the thing that you can do and that you're good at. Understand where it sits. Is there a industry around it? And then what does the industry require in order for you to be successful? Because so many businesses fail, and they fail very early. And a lot of them, I think, if they just educated themselves more about the industry, they wouldn't fail. So I think just I don't know if that's going to help your listeners, but educate yourself, know what you don't know, and have that self belief.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for sharing that insight. I'm sure we can have a takeaway. So whether persons are in business or whether they're an individual, whatever the journey is, there's something they can take away. How can listeners connect with Jacaranda
Yeah, so
Books?
we're on all socials as Jacaranda Books. We're on Instagram, we're on Threads, Facebook, TikTok. Also, you can go to our website and you can see where all of the different email addresses are. So if you want to send us manuscripts, there is a submission window. So as soon as it's open, I would say send the manuscript. Do not send it before the submission is open because we won't be able to look at it. And I would also say that I really am interested in publishing books that have Creole in them. So I'm interested in books in translation, books written in French or French and Creole from the French speaking diaspora. So send me your manuscripts.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So, listeners, there's your opportunity to enter the world of writing, of creating, and also being inclusive in terms of languages.
Definitely.
So, we have Creole, we have Dutch, we have Spanish, we have French, all of that intertwined into our Caribbeanness.
And one last thing I will say, Angela. So this year, for the first time, Jacaranda will be at the Bocas Lit Festival in Trinidad.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic.
and Magdalene Abraha will be on a panel talking about debut writing and early stage writing, and we have books on sale there. So if you're in the region, pop over.
Yes, hop on over. Thank you, Valerie, for taking the time to sit with us and to share a bit about your journey. And hopefully, we can have another conversation some other time because there's so much more we can talk about in terms of publishing and writing.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Angela, for having me. I've had a great time, and I would love to do it again. I would absolutely love to do it again.
Okay, fantastic. Because we know you're launching into the US as
That's
well,
correct.
so
Yeah, we didn't
there's
even
lots
touch
more
on
to
that.
do.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Listeners, this has been Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey, a space for real conversations around creative and entrepreneurial journeys. Our guest today shared her fantastic journey about writing and publishing, and we will tell more stories later on. Hopefully, we can follow up with her in the US. Be sure to like, subscribe, but of course, you have to listen to do that so we can help to build a community. My name is Angela, and I was your host for this episode. Until next time, bye for now. A quick note before we wrap up: the insights and experiences shared by our guests are their own. We love creating space for real conversations about business and growth, and everyone's journey is unique. Therefore, this podcast is for informational and inspirational purposes only. It is not meant to replace legal, financial, or other professional advice. So, we encourage you to take what's useful, do your own due diligence, and build what works best for you.
Thanks for listening to Begin, Build, Blossom Your Business Journey. We hope today's conversation gave you the insights and inspiration you need to move forward on your own path. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. Do you have feedback? We'd love to hear from you at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com. Join us again next week for a new episode.